And welcome back. And with me, Nisa Amoils, a venture capital investor, also an author. And I love the name of your book. WTF is happening. And WTF stands for?
Women Tech Founders.
Women Tech Founders. So, of course, a little play on words there. And I took kind of a glimpse at your book. And so it looks like you're interviewing or kind of profiling many different women that have been founders in the tech field. So
exactly.
What's the big takeaway, would you say? And then we'll dig a little deeper.
Yeah, so basically I focused on women who were building in frontier tech. So blockchain, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, autonomous mobility. And the reason I did that was because they don't get enough attention and they're building the future. So the reason I wrote the book was in order to give these women and women like them more capital so that they can be part of building the businesses that build the future.
A higher profile in the whole industry. So what is the status of women in tech, would you say?
So women in tech is still a challenge, and women in venture capital is still a challenge. So in the past year, 2019, women still received only 2% of all venture funding, and they're building businesses at a higher rate than anyone else. So it's how do you move the needle on that disparity? It really requires a macroeconomic shift of capital in order to do that and to empower them to build these businesses.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough problem.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like a chicken and egg thing. The money needs to go, but they don't want to invest the money, and then the women need to build the businesses. And I mean, I guess you have to have a few success stories and increase everybody's comfort level.
Which we do. Yeah. So we're getting there.
Okay. So then, and women companies perform pretty well.
They outperform, actually.
Yes.
And I included a lot of data about that in the book.
Okay.
So if you look at it like an undershopped, undervalued asset class that over-delivers, it's your ability to really, as an investor, gain alpha.
Now, do you think that it's just because they're female, or are there skills or networking things that they don't have just because women haven't been used to being in the industry?
I think they work very hard, and they have to work harder. And so I think if you look at the data, diversity of thought in general produces better returns. Whether you're a builder, any kind of builder, you're building a company, you're an investor. And so I think that they've just traditionally been undervalued.
Okay, so give me some highlights of the book. Like, what kind of women would we be reading about here?
Sure. So there are so many great women, it was hard to narrow down and figure out who to put in the book. But I would say 8 out of the 13 that I interviewed are in blockchain, using blockchain. And that's exciting because blockchain is the opportunity for equalization in the future, democratization. You look at women like Brianna Fay, she is really employing that convergence theory of blockchain, IoT, and artificial intelligence. And building something called R-Loop, an extension of Hyperloop. And she talks about her background in design and not necessarily in STEM. And so I found that fascinating. What she talks about was the fact that STEM is being marketed in the wrong way to young girls. And that it really should be marketed in a way that they can draw their own designs. She had a drawing background, and then envision them and actually have the tools to build them. And that's really exciting if you market it that way.
That is interesting. And I have a 9-year-old daughter, so I very much see how STEM is marketed, and she takes coding and really enjoys it.
Yes.
So it's a great, it's a good introduction. Any common themes you saw among the women?
I saw passion, curiosity, problem-solving skills, and really that they come from all kinds of backgrounds, and that they just want to solve problems. And that was the commonality, I think, among them.
Now, after talking to all these women and writing the book, what advice would you give high school and younger girls about just entrepreneurship, technology, and kind of finding their voice in the world?
Right, and I think your daughter's probably the exception, because I know many young girls that are afraid of math and science, that they think it's boys' domain. And I think the more exposure that they get to coding, the more exposure that they get to science, math, that's great, and they should stick with it, and that it should be marketed in the right way to them and make it fun.
Yeah.
Make it exciting.
And make it fun. And stick with it, I think, too. There seems to be like an age where they're good and then they're kind of like, because my daughter went through that a little bit, like 3rd grade. She's like, yeah, math. And I was like, don't you dare give up on math.
Right, exactly.
Like they get to be an age and
Yeah.
they're like, you're right, like it's a boys thing or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you need to stick with that.
Right,
So,
and it's helpful to have parents like you to teach
yeah.
them.
So yeah, parents have a lot,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of actually free programs out there for young girls and boys
Absolutely.
to learn about this stuff. Okay, so
And they
let's
have
get
to
it-
have role models.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's hugely
So
important.
that's why if they read this, that they will see what they could be.
Now, available on Amazon?
Yes.
Where can I find it? Okay.
Yes.
WTF is happening. Okay. Nisa, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me back.
Yes, and thank you as well for joining us. We'll be right back.